Tony Flexen here for Seconds Out with my old friend John Rawling, the voice, I think it's fair to say, of BT Sport Boxing. How are you, John?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good to hear it. We're here for the final press conference for the boxing's big return to the Royal Albert Hall. Frank Warren promotion, obviously, with Anthony Yarde against Travis Reeves on top. Just try and outline for us, if you can, the historical significance of this return to a classic traditional venue.
Well, I love the Royal Albert Hall. I think it's a tremendous boxing venue. I mean, once upon a time, it was one of the biggest boxing venues in the UK. It's got a great history. I think the first time that boxing was here was over 100 years ago. I think we're talking about 1918 or thereabouts. And there have been 900 shows since then. Big names have been here. The great heavyweights, you know, from a British perspective. Lennox Lewis has fought here, Frank Bruno's fought here, Henry Cooper's fought here. Muhammad Ali did exhibitions here, going back into the mists of time. You know, people like the great Georges Carpentier, the French boxer, he appeared here. Lloyd Honeyghan, world heavyweight title fight here. Nazim Hamed fought here. You know, I mean, it's full of history, and I know it's a cliche in boxing, but there really isn't a bad seat in the house. Wherever you are, you're so close. It's got that amphitheatre atmosphere. It's a fantastic venue, and I can't wait for Saturday night to be here to see it hosting big boxing again.
So it's kind of, for these guys, it's like walking in the footsteps of giants. Who do you expect to most rise to the occasion?
Well, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? I tell you what, I actually think that the welterweight fights, the welterweight title fights, might wind up being the best. Johnny Garton against Chris Jenkins, because Chris has gone twice in the past at super lightweight. Had a couple of fights against Tyrone Nurse, both of which were close. He's lost other fights because of cuts. And, you know, he's kind of a nearly man, but he's got a lot of boxing talent. And Johnny Garton, as we know from that fight against Gary Corcoran, you know, I mean, he is hard as nails, tough guy. But that was a hard fight. If he's taken into the trenches again, how much has that fight taken out of him? It's going to be a fascinating one. You know, he's proud to be a British champion, and that's from a guy in Johnny who nobody ever thought really would be a British champion. And I suspect when he started off, he never thought he'd get to this level, but he has done, and he's loving it. And he'll take a lot of beating.
Daniel Dubois is obviously going in with Razvan Kajanu. Is appearing at a venue like the Royal Albert Hall a natural next step for someone many people see as the natural heir to Lewis, Bruno, Joshua?
Well, yeah, I mean, Daniel's one of those guys who doesn't say a great deal, isn't he? So I'm sure he's aware of the history of the place, but I don't think that's going to be crowding in on him. I think he's just concentrating on the fight and just wanting to get it done. But there'll come a time, you know, provided it all goes his way, when he looks back, maybe he'll have more fights here. Maybe he'll fight for titles here. When he'll look back, and he'll be aware and he'll realise that he's following in the footsteps of some tremendous British heavyweights, and he's somebody who's almost within touching distance now, Danny, of getting big fights.
And this show's also being broadcast in the US on ESPN, as we know. Got Travis Reeves, who's a very confident American, coming in to fight Yarde as well. How do you think this show as a whole and the grandeur of the venue as well will be received back in the States?
Oh, they'll love it, won't they? They'll absolutely love it, because it's so very, very British. And you know, I mean, you've been over there, you know what it's like. The more you speak like David Niven, the more they like you. And when they see somewhere like the Royal Albert Hall, you know, they'll absolutely adore it. And you've been there when there's been boxing there, I presume, and it does generate a tremendous atmosphere. And Frank tells me it's not far off being sold out. So if that's the case, you can guarantee that it's going to be a special night, and the American television audience will absolutely love it.
Just on the wider point of that, how important is it as a step forward, both for you guys and for ESPN, I guess, too, that this link-up has happened, and that American viewers can now see the BT Sport, as it is over here, action on their screens?
Well, it gives a power base, doesn't it? Both sides of the Atlantic. ESPN is a huge operator in the United States. BT, as you know, is doing very well over here. So it's a link up which gives them huge clout between them, and absolutely guarantees big fights, huge fights, on both sides of the Atlantic.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you the very best of luck. Hope it all goes well on Friday. I'm sure it will, and we look forward to watching it.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thanks.